There we go.
And then if it doesn't work, we'll just do another,
Okay.
do another set.
Yeah.
Okay, do a good job. He's ready. Okay. We are doing Mimi Mouse. What letter is this?
N.
Like two humps, right? All right. You guys want to show me everything that starts with N? I'll just go in a circle. Point to it. Mouse. Say that. Mm-hmm.
Milk.
What is this? What do you think that is? A mud pie, maybe?
Muffin.
Or a muffin? Yeah? They both start with M's. What about this one?
Mug.
Mug. Starts with an M too, right? So this is about a mouse. Right? Okay, I'm gonna read you guys a story about a city mouse and a country mouse. Okay? But this is just one picture. There's only one picture for the whole story, okay? So listen closely because you're gonna do an activity. One day, a country mouse wrote a letter to his cousin who lived in the city, inviting him to come for a visit. The city mouse quickly accepted the invitation and said that he would come. The country mouse was happy because he was eager to hear about the exciting things that happened in the city. The following week, when the city mouse arrived in the country, he was dressed in a very fancy outfit. He wore a silk top hat, a long velvet coat, and a colorful vest. Around his neck was a huge orange tie, and he carried a silver cane in one paw. Now, to greet his guests, the country mouse had to put on his very best vest too, a simple brown one that fit nicely over his work shirt and pants. What can you guys tell me about the two mice so far? What's different about them?
One was in the country, one was in the city.
But one of them, the country one, tried to be really fancy, right? Because he put on his other vest. Okay. After a brief rest and some tea, the two mice went for a walk through the peaceful woods. They wandered along the country roads, up and down hills, and through woods, where they heard singing birds and the bubbling of a brook. That evening, the country mouse served dinner to his friend. There were nuts and berries and pumpkin seeds, and for dessert, a few morsels of cheese. It was good, simple country food, and the country mouse served it on his best dishes. The city mouse only picked at his food. He didn't like it very much. He ate just to be polite. Finally, he said to his friend, "Don't you find things here a bit dull in the country? In the city, we have shops and carriages, shows and parties, and all kinds of fancy foods to eat anytime we want. Why not come with me now? I'll show you what real living is like." Okay, both mice have things to eat and things to do at home. How is it different from the country? What do people do in the city that they don't do in the country?
There's not so much buildings.
And then in the city, are there a lot of parties and yeah, and a lot of it's really crazy, right? With a lot of people.
Lots of buildings.
And in the country, there's not, right? There's a lot of land and farms. Soon the country mouse packed a suitcase, and off the two mice went to the big city. So they're leaving the country and going to the city now with the city mouse. It was quite late at night when they arrived. The streets were still filled with people, horses, carriages, carts, dogs, and even cats. At last they reached the beautiful mansion where the city mouse lived. It was brightly lit, and sounds of music and laughter could be heard everywhere. Inside, the country mouse's eyes were like saucers when he saw soft velvet chairs and chandeliers sparkling with crystal and gold. What's different between the city mouse's house and the country mouse's house? The country mouse wasn't as nice, right? What else?
The city one is fancy.
Fancy and lots of bright lights and stuff. Okay. In the dining room, it was set for a great feast, and now it was the city mouse's turn to offer food to his guest. He showed the country mouse to cheeses as large as pumpkins and piled as high as mountains. There were plates and bowls and platters heaped with all kinds of meats and fruits, and trays of sweet desserts piled almost as high as the sky. How is this meal different from the country's meal? What did they eat in the country? Just kind of small cheeses and seeds, right? Okay, the country mouse could not believe his eyes. He had never seen or tasted such food in all of his life. He wondered how he could ever have been so happy in this simple country life. But just as he was tasting a bit of his luscious blueberry tart, he heard a loud noise in the hall. Then the big doors to the dining room burst open and in marched a great crowd of people, all talking, laughing, and shouting. The two mice jumped quickly from the table and ran away. They hid for what seemed like a very long time until the room quieted down and the people left. When they finally crept over to the hiding place, there, still on the table, were leftover pieces of cheese, half-eaten bread crusts, and even small pots of peanut butter. So the two friends scampered back to the table and sampled one of everything. They nibbled this and nibbled that and were just about to have some tasty pie crust for dessert when pounce, out of nowhere, a great, sleek, green-eyed monster leapt onto the table. "It's a cat! Run for your life!" squeaked the city mouse. He pushed his cousin to the floor, and the two ran down the hallway and into the pantry into a tiny, cramped mouse hole. Quickly they closed the tiny door and stood listening to their tiny, frightened hearts beating like drums. When they had finally calmed down and were sure that cat was gone, from the other side of the door, the country mouse said to his cousin, "Thank you for inviting me to the city, but I like the country life better. I think I'll go home in the morning." And so he did. He ran the whole way home. So what happened in the story? In the beginning. There. Two mice.
The two mice, were cousins.
Mm-hmm. What else? Mm-hmm. And did the city mouse like that? Because he thought it was kind of gross and dirty, right? Quinn, did you have something to say? No. Or did they go after the country? They went back to the city, right? And the country mouse didn't like it. They like it at their own homes, right? Okay, now what you guys are gonna do, you're gonna go back in the room and you're gonna draw a picture of either the city or the country. What are in cities? Buildings and cars and what are in countries?
Can we finish up all out and walk falls?
Mm-hmm. She'll tell you what to do inside. Okay? Thanks, guys.